Yo, what's poppin', y'all? Welcome back to the podcast, another episode of Caffeine and Green with your man, Connor Cardenas. Before we get into it today, man, I just want to give a huge thank you to the sponsors of Caffeine and Green, which are Thorn Brewery, coming straight out of North Park, San Diego, and Seven Seas Roasting Company, coming straight out of South Park, San Diego. That's right, we holding it down out here in SD. Now, one of the best things about having Seven Seas as a sponsor of the podcast is that they've afforded me a code, which I'm going to pass along to y'all right now. So, if you head over to sevenseasroasting.com, you input my code at checkout, you're going to be able to get a deal for 3 bags of coffee for $30. That's right. I said 3 bags of coffee for $30. I mean, that's a no-brainer because depending on the coffee that you're getting, 2 bags of coffee can be $32, and that's without tax. So you're getting a bag of coffee for free, regardless of the origin or the region of the world, wherever it's at. So you go to our coffee tab. You're going to select maybe our new Honduras coffee, which is milk chocolatey, a little silky body, a little bit of bright acidity, some raisin, some milk chocolate, some caramel. Or you can get our single origin Ethiopian, which is like a rose and a little bit of berry, blueberry, a little bit more chocolate. And then you can get our 5th gear espresso, which is amazing. It's a great combination, full-bodied, sweet, chocolatey. It's amazing. You get those 3 bags of coffee. You go to the checkout. You input my code. That's going to be CANDG at checkout. Again, that is C and G. And you're going to get 3 bags of coffee for $30. Now, disclaimer, the Spikes roast or any of our charity roasts they're not a part of this deal. Totally fine. There's still plenty of coffee to choose from. So, again, get any 3 coffees minus our charity roast. Head over to that promo code. CANDG. That's C and G at checkout. And you're going to get 3 bags of coffee for $30. My guest today is an amazing coffee roaster. He's also a lifelong skateboarder. And he's coming straight from mid-city Los Angeles. I'm talking about my man, Carlos Figueroa. That's right. Carlos is an amazing individual. I met him for the very first time when I went up to City Beans Roastery about a week ago. We hit it off from the get-go. I mean, talk about just the new age and the what we're living in right now with technology. I had a mutual friend named Chris introduce us through Instagram. By just DMing him, talking to him, finding out about him, and then seeing like how skateboarding is so involved in everything that he does, including roasting coffee. I mean, we hit it off from the get-go. We had so many things to talk about and just so much passion around skateboarding and roasting and just even talking about Nipsey Hussle. I mean, y'all know how I feel about Nipsey Hussle. So without further ado, I want to give a huge shout out to my man, Carlos Figueroa. This is your time to shine, homie. Let's go. Caffeine and green. It's your boy Connor. What's good? Good. Caffeine and green. And we're live.
All right.
Yes, Carlos Figueroa. Ooh, wait. Ooh, that was a double one.
There you go.
Cheers, brother. I will say, I got these beers at the liquor store up the street, and I walked in and was like, yeah, all right. This is definitely not San Diego.
Oh, yeah.
I love it, though.
You get a sense for the neighborhood.
Dude, yeah. I was. That's what I said right when I walked in. I was like, sometimes it's like, I mean, grew up in the Bay Area. Definitely have been in some shady neighborhoods in Oakland and stuff. And it's like, you just always got to be ready to know when you're going in the hood. And then I was driving around. I was like, in the hood. All right. Not a bad thing, but it's just like I was like, okay, mentally shift. And I was like, maybe wearing a bright neon yellow jersey to not attract attention to yourself was not the move.
Neighborhood's changing. I think you're good. Yeah.
No, not worried about it at all. But as you know, I like to get right into it. And Carlos, you are the head roaster here at City Beans Roasters in Mid-City, Los Angeles. Dude, tell me about your coffee journey. When did it start for you?
For me, it started back in 2003.
Damn.
Just randomly got a job at this kiosk at what I like to call Nakatomi Plaza.
Plaza.
The Die Hard building.
Okay.
Where they filmed Die Hard.
Yeah.
So there's a little kiosk at the bottom. Buddy of mine was working there and got me a job just helping him push coffee cups to, the business guys that work there. That turned into, they opened up a shop in downtown. And when that happened, I was just offered the opportunity to go over there. So I just was there from the moment that the tiles came in, the sinks came in, the espresso machine came in. So I got to see the whole build out.
Sick.
And just sit in the loading dock, waiting for things to arrive. Gradually became the manager at that shop and just kind of got burned out of being in downtown. Just dealing with the extra stuff from downtown at the time.
Yeah.
So I was offered the opportunity to come down into the warehouse and start roasting. So jumped on it.
So you've been at one company for 17 years. You were saying before the podcast.
Yeah, 17 in January. Yeah, just hit that 17-year mark like LeBron James.
Bro, talk about loyalty. Yo, that's super loyal. Wow. And did you ever have aspirations to leave and like join another coffee shop or like?
Not really. You know, it's when I was 21 years old. So when it started, it was, you know, you get a job. You know, I had a kid. You know, I wanted to make sure that I had, you know, a steady paycheck. And I actually wasn't a coffee drinker. I was just at all. I was just very, very good at making the customers happy. Nice. I started memorizing like what they added to their drinks, you know, or how they liked them. So just, you know, you just start doing that thing where like a lot of coffee shops do, where you start kind of jumping on your regulars' orders.
Oh yeah.
You know, and they appreciate it. And I started taking joy in seeing how happy they were. Started realizing like coffee's like, whoa, like, you know, you have an opportunity to make somebody's day a little brighter right before they walk into their job.
Yep.
You know, and I took a sense of pride in that. So then coming over to roasting coffee, eventually, once you get past the nervousness of I don't know what I'm doing, you know, and you're like, let me try and learn. I like the challenge. So just started chipping away, and I'm still chipping away, you know?
Dude.
Still just trying to keep myself in that space where I'm never happy, you know, and just always trying to improve and see what more I can learn and, you know, hopefully roast some good coffee in the process.
Yeah.
You know?
Just comfortable being uncomfortable.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Especially, I mean, with that big roaster in there. Before the podcast, you showed me there's 2 roasters here on site. It's the 1926 Probat.
Yes.
And then with upgrades to it, of course, with the bean probes and stuff. And then also you have, what kilo size is that?
It's 75.
75 kilo roaster, and you're experimenting between 130 pounds or 150 pounds at one time in one batch.
Yeah.
Which for people who don't, like, I mean, I don't think there's a lot of people who listen to the coffee podcast that are not coffee people, but if there is those people out there, that is an entire burlap sack of coffee.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is, like, when you showed me that roaster, I was like I said, goals. That's like what I would ideally want to be on eventually sometime in my life. But it's so overwhelming to look at that thing. And it's like, I asked you, I was like, how do you clean that? That's such a roaster thing to say, I feel like, because it's not, oh my God, it's amazing. It's like, how do you clean that thing, bro? Like,
that's a great question.
Yeah.
It is a roaster question too, because that's the space that we put ourselves into. Like, right. Yeah, like maintenance and what is the upkeep on this machine?
Yeah.
You know, so.
Because like the fire, like if a fire were to happen, it's like keep the fire in the box kind of thing. And then it's like, but with so many moving pieces, especially on a roaster that big, it's like, how would you even isolate a fire? Because it could go in so many different back flues. It could go in the afterburner. I mean, well, you'd want it to go in the afterburner essentially, but I just like, it's flabbergasting to me. And then the fact that you didn't, I was like, I asked you, I said, how do you even get the beans in the hopper? You're like, oh, this thing right here, it's a vacuum and it like sucks it up in there. It's like, whoa. Like,
made it a lot easier on my back.
Yeah. Dude. Oh, and that's a good segue right there. I mean, we were talking about it before the podcast. You had a back injury as well. As like, I can relate. I've broken my back. I've talked about it on the podcast before. Tell me a little bit about it. How did that happen? Like,
it was just wear and tear. We were in between assistants at the time. So I was running the warehouse alone. And, you know, you're pulling a bag. You know, you're standing a bag up and you just got a little careless and you just felt a little twinge.
Yeah.
And then that twinge just developed and it just wouldn't go away. And
was it like a pop or was it like
it was like a pull. It felt like a pull. Yeah.
Okay.
Enough where like you stop and you're like, whoa, what was that? You know, it almost felt like a squish.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And so was it just because you didn't like bend your knees, or you weren't keeping your abs tight, or?
It was probably the abs, I would say, because I'm very cautious of bending my knees when I do it, but I was trying to like pull a bag over something, and just probably just didn't brace myself properly, and just trying to keep this place organized and doing what I do, and I'm very I like things in a certain manner, in a certain.
Remember, meticulous.
Yeah. I like my coffee organized.
Okay.
So whether I have help or not, it's gonna get done.
Okay.
I'll figure out a way. And it caught up to me, but thankfully, all good now.
So, you had mentioned too that you had actually, it was through skateboarding, because that's another thing. Like, we have a lot in common. We're coffee. We love hip hop. And then also, you talked about your love of skateboarding. It's who you are. It's how you identify yourself, as well as a coffee roaster. But you said skateboarding helped you get through your injury.
Oh, definitely.
Tell me about that.
Well, we pride ourselves on having a high threshold for pain.
Yeah.
Depending on how long you've been skateboarding, you've dealt with different, injuries, whether it's your wrists or your ankles or your knee or what have you.
Check.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could check the boxes off.
Yeah.
So it's basically just putting yourself in that same mindset of just, it hurts, but it's not going to hurt forever.
Yeah.
It'll go away, and it's easier when you're younger because it goes away a lot faster.
Yep.
When you get older, it takes a little longer, but it's still the same thing. It's, for me, it's mind over matter.
Okay.
I've been like that since I was a kid, and I'm going to keep it like that until it doesn't work.
Damn, that's sick. And how long have you been skateboarding?
I've been skateboarding for 27 years.
27.
Yeah, since I was 11.
Damn.
Yeah. When I started, it was not the popular thing to do.
Yeah.
We ran into a lot of situations growing up in Koreatown. It was the 90s. There's gang wars happening at the time, especially in my neighborhood. So the gang members didn't necessarily like skateboarders because we were creating a lot of noise on their block, which would
like
then
actual noise.
Yeah, just the banging of skateboards.
Yeah.
But then if the cops get called, it
brings attention.
It stops what they're doing. It brings attention to their neighborhood. Now they got to worry about them. So they would get kind of aggressive towards skateboarders if they were anywhere near them, or on their block.
Whoa.
So you had to deal with that. You had to deal with going to school and kids thinking it's funny that you had holes in your shoes, thinking that you were just like poor and couldn't afford shoes. They're like, why do you have duct tape on your shoes? Your parents can't buy you new shoes?
Like, dude, I've been doing amazing kickflips. Okay, stop.
You're like, no, that duct tape is a point of pride.
Yeah.
Like, I ripped my shoe enough that it required it. Like, so, it was funny though to see the transition from people saying, what's DVS? I'd never heard of that brand. That must be from Payless or whatever, And then the next year, it's like everybody's trying to look and dress or be a skateboarder.
Yep.
And it was almost like I would say a good 2 years into skateboarding that happened. Started seeing more people kind of come on, and people who didn't have interest in skateboarding kind of like pick up the skateboard. And for us, that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
It just meant more people enjoying what we already knew
was tight.
Was cool.
Yeah.
So it was like, cool, come along. It was so small. Skateboarding, if you lived in a certain neighborhood, you knew all the skateboarders in that neighborhood.
Yep.
And if anybody new came around, you would kind of like wave them down, like, hey, we're over here.
Yeah, it's like, hey, man, you skate?
Yeah, you skate?
Yeah, what's up?
This is where we are.
Yeah.
Like, you must be looking for us, was the mentality, So you'd have people from different, backgrounds and groups, within that skate group. You'd have guys that were there because it seemed like it was the fun thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily there for the skateboarding, more there for the vibe.
Yeah, hanging with the homies.
Exactly.
And not getting in trouble too much.
Yeah. Yeah. Or choosing this as the form that I'll get in trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll get in this trouble. It's a lot easier than anything else that we could have gotten into in that particular time pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Being kids. So,
dude, that's rad. I mean, I can definitely relate to that. I mean, I was talking to you before the podcast. I grew up in the Bay Area, and I grew up in a town called Fremont. So it's like 15 minutes outside of Oakland. It's like I guess it would be. I don't know. I don't know. Like, actually, want to say I grew up in Fremont because I went to school in Fremont. I grew up all over the Bay Area, Sunnyvale, all different parts of South Bay, East Bay as well. But my family is rooted in Fremont. When I went to high school is really when I really started. Like, I lived in Fremont. I went to school in Fremont, and there was 4 skaters at our school, and the senior when we were freshmen, there was like a bigger group of us because there was like one of my friends, Patrick Malikian, his brother Ed Malikian had like a car. Nice. And he could drive us to lunch and shit. Yeah. And it was like, all right, cool. There was him and then his Eric Kurtzweiler and then like maybe 1 or 2 other guys. So when they were seniors and we were freshmen, it was like, oh, they're seniors. They could drive us. It's sick. And it was like we had our skate crew. And then it was like every Friday we'd go to Van's Skate Park Milpitas after school on Friday. And then it was like skate all weekend. And then it was like castle contests and stuff like that as well. But when they left, it was just me, my homie Eric Sepulveda, Patrick, and then my homie Russell Mahalko. Yeah, Russell Mahalko, Patrick Milligan, as Eric Sepulveda. So there's 4 of us in the whole fucking school. People would like, I remember people were like, so you're going to grow out of the skateboarding thing? Like, is this going to be for, I'm like, bro, I'm a skateboarder. Like, this is like, especially, I broke my ankles 7 months apart to the day. Ooh. Like, I broke the left ankle, then 7 months later, I broke the right ankle. Stupid. But same thing, bro. It was not the cool thing. But as soon as you saw somebody who was skating, like, hey, what up? And even if they weren't good, it was, yo, come and kick it. And then it, like, the vibe was there. Definitely the antics, what's the word that they use? The ruckus, essentially. Maybe ruckus or just
the hijinks.
Yes, the hijinks was there. But it was always just so fun. I mean, you would, having skateboarders too around, it was like always, because you would push yourself and put yourself in danger, essentially, you were always doing shit with your friends that were like not of the norm. Like, I remember, like, we would just cause hijinks on the way back from, like, we would go to Boston Market every day and get the kids meal during lunch because we could have off-campus lunch. And my homies would be like, hey, dude, like, Jahari came up to me the other day at the party and was like, bro, I, like, came and it was, like, blue. And people were like, ew! And we'd be like, ah! Like, laughing because of the shit we'd be saying. Or, like, my homie would take, like, this was kind of fucked up. He would take, like, the cornbread and, like, smush it up and then, like, throw it into a crowd and just watch it explode on people. Again, it was fucked up, but it was funny. And it was our homies. So it was, like...
It's what you do when you're young and full of energy and just trying to goof off.
Exactly.
Yeah. I had buddies that would pretend to get into a fist fight in the middle of a high school. They would walk like a few paces away from each other and then pretend that they didn't know each other, and when they would meet, they'd bump into each other and start shoving each other and just wait for security to like run up on them. And as soon as security ran up, they'll start hugging and laughing. They were getting so mad. They would get so mad at them, but the rest of us just thought it was the funniest thing in the world. Like,
dude,
it's like, yeah, keep them on their toes.
Yep. Dude, my one friend Eric, oh my God, he had this thing where we'd be walking in the hallways and he'd be like, hey you with the shoe. And like people would turn around and be like, what? He's like, yeah, you. And he's just like pointing to a crowd, nobody in particular. And then he would like switch it up, be like, hey, you with the ear. Yeah, you.
And you just, exactly. It's you don't know why, but it's like the funniest thing.
The funniest fucking thing. Or like, dude, we got me, Russell, and Patrick, we all like thought it was the funniest thing to fucking, we got straws from the lunch line. And we like, got obsessed with like spitballs for a week, and then we had like we were having the spitball war in the like. We were stupid. It was right in front of the office, and we're just like ducking people, getting each like that. And then they caught us. They're like, "You guys are detention, all 3 of you." And then we all had detention for like a fucking week, like cleaning trash cans and stuff.
It's amazing the things that we find entertaining or do when we're in that age. Mm-hmm. Like just I have very minimal memories from high school because I was rarely there.
Really?
High school was by the time high school started, I already was a dad. So,
at 14?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I had my son at 14 years old. So, high school was like, let me go and see what it's about. Like, I got a job to get to, but let me go and check high school out while I'm not working. So I would just show up and kind of just meet up with the skaters and just hang out, see where everybody was at, see where everybody's going to be at later, and then say, all right, guys, lunchtime, I'm out. And just
To get to work.
yeah, I had to go to work. I I have a responsibility, and it's not school.
You knew at 14 that you had responsibility, and you stuck with it.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Wow.
it was just the logical thought in my head was, oh, I'm having a son. Well, I got to provide some form of financial support at the very least. Regardless of how old I am. It didn't have anything to do with that. I just got a fake ID and got a job. I've been working ever since.
Whoa. Okay. Whoa. You just glazed over that. You got a fake ID and you got a job. And wait, before all that, was that instilled in you, or did you just do that on your own? Did your parents be like, "Hey, you're gonna have a son. You need to step up," or did you just no, I need to do this?
Well, I was raised by a single mom, so it's very basic to switch your gear from. Well, all I got to do is the opposite of what my dad did, and that should be, at the very least, good enough. So provide, be there, if you make a promise, you actually come through with it. It's real generic stuff. TV raised me, hip hop raised me, Ice Cube and Tupac and Wu-Tang and the things that they were saying, because to me, these were the older guys that had some type of experience that I didn't have. So I'm not going to listen to everything because I have some type of sense in my head.
Yep.
But anytime on a television show when the dad was having that moment with his son where he had the hand on the shoulder and then the cheesy music starts, that's when you turn it on and okay, well, this is what a dad would say. So I'll ingest this and let it ferment in my own brain and apply it to my own life and however I see fit. I think that's just human nature to protect yourself. And yeah, just pro dreams went away at 14, but I had to work.
Dude, but I mean, you say that, but as you're telling me and you're explaining this story to me, it's what you did was so much more admirable. And dude, at 14 years old, I was consumed with Limp Bizkit. I don't even think I would be able to grasp that. And the fact that you did that on your own, that's why I ask, is wow, it's shocking in a very, very good way. It's there's something in you that is exquisite and different.
It's skateboarding for me. Skateboarding, I've been skateboarding since I was 11 years old. So in my eyes, I've been a skateboarder longer than I was anything. I was 11 years old and my brain was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I actually wanted to start skateboarding at probably the age of 8.
Mm-hmm.
But we couldn't afford a skateboard.
Okay.
And I just always felt like skateboarding was always something that I was meant to be involved in some way, shape, or form. When I'm a kid, I'm watching, I'm obsessively watching movies like Thrashing, which is about a guy going pro.
Yep.
I'm a fan of Ninja Turtles, and my favorite is Michelangelo. He
Same.
skates. Dennis the Menace, he skates. Bart Simpson, he skates. Back to the Future, Marty skates.
Yep.
It's skateboarding was calling, but couldn't afford a skateboard. You get the swap meet board with Bruce Lee Enter the Dragon on it and rails and the big brake and the nose guard.
Mm-hmm.
But real skateboarding has noses and tails at this point. I'm riding a fishtail. In 93, my brother started hanging out with skateboarders and graffiti writers.
Okay.
So when it was dinner time, it was go get your brother. I had to go to the group he was at and call him and tell him it's time to go. They'd be at the skate spot right on the corner of my block. So eventually me and my friends were just staring from across the street dude, that looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And now it's not just me that wants to skate. Now everybody that I'm hanging with wants to skate.
It's your
and
homies.
and it was a group decision amongst me and 4 of my friends where it was we're all going to get skateboards and start skateboarding.
Sick.
And once we made that commitment, everybody started bothering you start bothering your parents. I want a board. It's got the board, trash, no nose, no tail. It's all chipped.
Yep.
You know, independent
Snaggletooth.
hanger.
Yeah.
Independent hanger with a venture, you know, base plate, you know, just transformer board, but you had a skateboard.
Yeah.
You know, you can finally start trying to learn these tricks. Out of that group of skateboarders, one of the guys had just gotten sponsored.
Sick.
And another guy in the group was pro. And he happened to be my next door neighbor.
Sick.
So for us, skateboarding was always like, well, if I need a board, I'm going next door and I'm going to ask my buddy who's pro if he'll sell me one.
Or just like a used deck.
Yeah. And George would always come through, or Doug, who was also sponsored. They were both sponsored by 6040, which is, you know, Mark Gonzalez and all that. And we didn't know. You know, you had Mark coming down to our neighborhood to pick up Doug, and they're like, "That's Mark Gonzalez," and they're like, all the skaters are like, "Oh my God, it's Mark," and we're like, "Okay." You know, you find out later, and you're like, "Wow!" Like, you know, I was very fortunate to grow up in the pocket of skateboarding that I grew up in, because a lot of the skate videos that I grew up idolizing, I was there for a lot of that footage, because those were the weekend sessions at Lockwood, at USC, at Courthouse. You know, so
you saw a lot of mouse. You like girl, like
Keenan doing the switch flip over the picnic table.
No, you did. You were
Like,
there.
I was there because my buddy Doug was there to film Switch 180 over the same picnic table. So in the 6040 video that never came out and eventually was like thrown on YouTube, I see him doing that Switch 180, and I'm like, that's the day Keenan did the switch flip over the table.
Dude, that's the one that's in the beginning of Yeah Right, when they show Keenan's part and he does that switch flip.
Yeah.
Oh, you were there that day, dude. That's fucking.
We were around all these guys and had no idea. Like, we knew they were pro, we knew they were sponsored guys, but we had no idea. You know, we didn't know that Girl was this big hype company that came from a bunch of guys that just left Plan B. We were little kids. We're just
what was it? Plan B or World Industries?
Both.
Okay, yeah.
Both. It was a little bit of both.
Yeah.
You know, and to us, it was just like, yeah, those are the guys that really know how to skate, and that they have a guy with a camera filming them.
Yeah.
And the menace guys are the guys that we were kind of intimidated by.
Yeah, they were like the hood dudes.
Well, they would also like, when they were done skateboarding, they would start, every once in a while, they'll start tossing wax at each other and hitting it like a baseball. So you're trying a trick, and all of a sudden, a piece of wax just comes flying right by your head, and you're like, oh, like, I almost got hit. You turn around, and it's like Joey Surreal and Fabian Alomar, and you're just like, I'm not going to say nothing.
Dude, those are the two names I was literally thinking of, because Joey Surreal was my team manager when I used to ride for Force.
Sick.
And that's what, like, he was like the nicest guy, but then I found out about Menace, and I seen it, I was like, that's the same dude? Like,
and then you think about it, and they were all just teenagers. They were doing hijinks.
Yeah.
They were just goofing around. You know, it just so happened that they were sponsored and, you know, had their names on skateboards and stuff.
Yep.
But we're growing up around all this, like, thinking it's normal. You know, oh yeah, everybody sees Costin all the time, right? Like, you know, yeah, that's Guy Mariano. Yeah, he's skating the fountain ledge. Yeah, we were just there. You know, it was normal. Yeah. It was only later on that you're like, oh man, I'm
they were
blessed.
in the scene. Yeah, they were in the scene. You're in the scene, and it's like you were at that time. So I totally understand what it is. I totally get that.
You know, and in the first chocolate video, York gets the first part, and in his first line at Courthouse, me and my buddies are standing in the background, and I kind of like stop what I'm doing and turn around and look at him.
Wow.
So to me, it's like full circle, because York put out a part. I just randomly threw out a part a couple of months ago, and he threw a clip of mine in his part.
Did really?
And I was like, in my head, I'm like, dude, that's full circle for me. Like, you know, I'm not making illusions that I'm going to go pro, but I'm like, that's one of those goals I had as a little kid. I wanted to be in a random skate video that had nothing to do with me, that just somebody decided they were going to throw my footage in there.
You had a homie clip.
Yeah, I got the homie clip, and I was so stoked for it, because I'm like, yeah, and the first time I saw myself on footage in the skate video was in York's part in the chocolate video. And now here I am getting a clip in York's part for Roller Horror. So I'm like, that's sick. Yes. You know, it's like, I was so stoked for it. Like,
yes.
Shout out to York.
Dude, cheers to that, bro. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Dude, that's awesome. Have you ever put out one of your own parts?
No, just,
Never?
you know, we just I'm the guy that pulls the cameras out and films everybody.
Okay.
You know, if you see a lot of my stuff, it's selfie clips. I'll put my phone down. I don't.
Well,
wanna,
yeah, no, I watched your Instagram. I see you skating.
Yeah,
I see you out there.
I try to be out there as much as possible because to me it's my therapy. It's my therapy and it's my gym. You know,
Okay.
I tell my wife I'm going to hit the gym for an hour. She knows that means I'm going right on the other side of this block. There's a skate park, and I live right up the street. So
Yeah.
So when we moved, I made it a point to move near work so I can be available to work whenever they needed me. But I also knew there's a skate park right here, or skate plaza. So I had already been going to that skate plaza because we're here, so it's local, and all the dudes there like know me. I'm at this point I'm the OG. They call me the OG.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, the big homie.
age. Yeah, I'm the big homie.
Yeah, the big homie.
I'm always the oldest one there,
Hey, it's all good.
and that's cool because like I get to hang out with people of all ages and kind of get a vibe for where everybody's at skateboarding wise.
Yeah.
At that time, you know, from your I just started skateboarding 11-year-old and his thoughts and what he thinks about skateboarding and what's cool and what's not, to the guy who's 22 now, but I've known him since he was 15.
Yeah.
So I got to see him like go from that little kid to like this man that's now like doing things and like, you know, like
Experiencing life.
you know, and it's real cool to see that, you know, real cool to see that. And I thank skateboarding for being able to put me in those positions where like in any other instance, like a guy my age hanging out at a park to play, you know, it's like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Right? You know, it's
like it kind of puts off a weird vibe.
Exactly.
Like, what are you doing, bro?
Exactly. Like you hung out with a 15-year-old and a 20-year-old on the weekend. Like, what'd you guys do? Like, we went to downtown and hung out all day. It's like, for what? Like, why are you hanging out with a 13-year-old? It's like, because he skates.
Yeah.
And he wants to skate. You know, it's like, to me,
It's safer too because you're older and you can be like, hey man, like for actual people who are trying to do like messed up stuff, like, hey, chill. This dude's with me. Like, yo, you can like separate things, you know, like.
I'm also like constantly in dad mode. So like,
That's what I was trying to say. Essentially.
if we run into a situation where security guard is getting crazy, you know, and I've been the little kid that's the antagonist, and you're trying to start, you know, stuff with
like,
the,
don't touch me, bro.
Yeah. Or you're just running at the mouth,
just popping off.
You know, where fast forward to now, you know, I'm quick to apologize. Oh, I'm sorry, dude. I don't mean to, you know, bother you while you're working. Our bad. We'll leave. You know, and that's kind of like letting little dudes know, like, this is how you conduct yourself. You know, he's doing a job. You're in the wrong. Don't get mad at him. Just apologize. And, you know, he might let you skate for a few more minutes.
Yeah.
Because you were cool with it. You know, we had a situation like that in downtown recently where the DWP all of a sudden was able to skate. You were able to skate at DWP.
For like during the day, or
it was like I was seeing footage pop up. So it was like, oh, let's go to DWP. I'm seeing people skate there. And
I love how you're referencing that because for people who don't know, that's it's an amazing skate spot. Yeah, it's an amazing skate spot with two marble ledges, both sides. Yes. Okay,
surrounded by water.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Well, yeah,
because sometimes the water's drained.
The water was drained at the moment.
Okay.
And
sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's fine. And that's what it was. We're like, let's go check it out. And our instinct was we're gonna get kicked out.
Yeah.
So rush in there, get a few tricks, get out.
Yep.
So me and my buddy rush in there, right? Just
you go across that bridge, you're just like looking the whole time, like
nobody's around.
Go.
Go in. I film my buddy do one trick just because I'm like, dude, you've never got to skate this spot because it's been non-skatable since you've been skateboarding.
Mm-hmm.
So let's film you doing anything, a no slide, just so that you get a clip on this, you know, this legendary LA spot. We do that, and then we're like, all right, let's go. Start skating out. My other friend stayed back. And he's got the most bum look on his face. And he's like, dude, security just went up to me. He said, if you guys would have been respectful, I would have let you skate. But because your buddies just bum rushed it to the back, you guys got to go.
What? Are you serious?
So I was so bummed because I'm like, normally I'm very respectful when it comes to these things.
Yeah.
But like my instinct, my little kid instinct being in downtown, which is a place I've been hundreds of times since I started skateboarding, was bum rush this spot because you only get so much time.
Dude, it's funny you say that because that spot was so significant in the sense where it's like, there's like, I hope this doesn't like put it on blast because that spot's been around since I was living in LA and skating that spot. But we used to light it up. And it was like, but for some reason there was like no cameras on that side. So it's like the building's so big. Once you get past there and you bring all your shit, you could be there for hours and they would never know you're there.
Yeah, you're on the back
but
side.
you have to get past the security. It's like a video game. Get past security, then you're fine. But it's like, same, dude. I've been there and like we'll be skating, mobbing deep, and then all of a sudden security comes out and it gets out of hand. I've had homies like get kind of violent with the security, and then I've had people be like, hey man, hey, totally get it. We had way longer than we were like expecting to have it here.
Yeah.
I've also had homies who like miss a trick and their board flies into the water. But you know, it's crazy, man. I'm loving how why can you skate it now all of a sudden?
I have no idea.
Just because they're probably just over it after all these years.
Something they must be doing something there. You know, where like and sometimes it's as simple as the security guard working there. Mm-hmm. It could be a security guard that takes, you know, he's not dealing with it. He does not care. He does not want skateboarders there. So he comes out and makes sure every time he hears that skateboard, he comes out and says, get out.
Yeah.
And then, you know, or next thing you know, it's like, hey, it's the cool security guard. He's on shift.
Yeah.
He doesn't care that we're out there skateboarding. You know, and that word starts kind of getting around too.
Oh,
like, you know, amongst
super fast.
skateboarders,
Yeah.
like, hey man, like show up between this time and this time. I think Jaquan is like that right now. Like Jaquan,
Really?
you can skate there. Like I believe, like I could be wrong. I know it's either Saturday or Sunday, but it's literally like you have to get there at 7 a.m. and you gotta be out by 10.
Yeah, it's like
something like that.
Dude,
like,
that's what I was gonna say. It used to be 7 to 11 on
Yeah.
Sundays.
Yeah.
At Jaquan. I mean, this is back in the day though, so I mean that does sound about right.
we were skating Jaquan steady every weekend right before it got blown up all over again, like where it is or how it's at the point that it is now. But I mean that's been a skate spot since
Forever.
It came out
I
like in
mean-
the old Powell videos.
Oh, dude. I mean, yeah. And then like when Guy Mariano remade his like his what do you call that when you're like you're coming back? Your comeback.
His comeback.
His comeback. Yeah. Duh. He for like fully flared, and then that he was all over Jaquan, like switchback 270, like lip down the rail, like
So sick.
in a line. Like come on, bro.
That dude's one of the greatest.
Dude, one of the greatest.
Yeah.
But dude, that's so sick. I'm glad we can vibe on that super hard. But just to kind of shift gears a little bit. So you've been here for 17 years. You started off at the bottom essentially. You know, starting like barista. You made your way through the coffee ladder, if you will. What made you want to start roasting?
At first, it was just getting out of the shop,
Okay.
just getting out of that. I just, you know, it just became like this routine that I just wasn't happy with anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And working in a warehouse just it seemed like fun, you know. It's quiet, you know. I mean, not the machines, but
Yeah.
you know, just like there's no outside noise. So, and it felt like a challenge, you know. And it wasn't until like, you know, when I first started doing it, I had no idea what I was doing. You know, I'm roasting coffee, and I'm also not a coffee drinker, so I'm trying to roast a product that I have no idea what it's supposed to taste like.
Damn,
You know?
that's crazy.
So I'm basically just like, what do I do? And you tell me, and I'll do that. And you tell me when to end this roast, and I felt like a button pusher, you know. And every morning, my boss would come in with a cup of coffee. He'll put it down for me, and I would look at it, and he would smile, and he would say, "I'm gonna get you to start drinking coffee." He
Yeah.
goes, and then he broke it down as simple as like, I understand you don't want to drink it because it's not a beverage that you like to drink, but you need to understand the product. You need to understand why it tastes good and why it would taste bad so that you can identify it.
Yeah.
So I basically felt like he posed a challenge for stepping my game up as to understanding the product that I'm working with,
Mm-hmm.
and to get a better result. So, you know, okay, challenge, you know, I'll take a
Challenge
challenge.
accepted.
Challenge accepted. No problem, you know. So I would sip it. I would sip it when he would put it down. I would sip it, and then I think one day, like, he put it down, and I let it sit there for a bit, and it was not room temp, but it was cooled down enough where I can drink the whole thing. And I was in the middle of roasting, and I just slammed it. Like, where normally I would take like a sip or two, I just slammed it, and it stopped me in my tracks. And I was like, wow, I roasted that? Oh, well, that's pretty good, you know. And that just kind of opened up this window where I was like, okay, coffee. There's more to you than just a hot drink
Yeah.
that people obsess over, you know.
Yep.
And And we had a guy here that used to work with us named Zach. And Zach was really into craft beer.
Okay.
So he got me to go out with him one time. And I was the same way about beer, where I'm like, beer, it's just, you drink it to get a buzz, and that's it. Some are stronger than others. Some taste worse. Some taste, they all taste like beer. I had like that, like, it's all beer. And he basically had me have enough craft beer that I started noticing these little nuances and flavors and things that I liked, that I was like, I didn't know beer could do this.
Yeah.
So immediately my brain went to coffee, where I was like, oh, I need to give this thing a little bit more respect. So from that point on, it's just been this ongoing, like, battle that I've had of just trying to outdo myself. And for me, everything falls in line with skateboarding. So I'm not trying to do the best kickflip in the world. I'm trying to do the best kickflip that I can do, as long as I'm happy with it, with the understanding that I'm going to want another one. I'm going to want to do it again.
Yep.
Cleaner than that one.
Yep.
Higher, smoother, whatever, So it's the same thing with coffee with me. I can be very excited about a batch of coffee that I roasted and enjoy it, but I'm not content, because I'm going to have to roast it again.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to nail it again. And who knows when that roast is going to land. That one I roasted it was the 6th roast of the day. That was the sweet spot. The next time around, it's the 12th roast of the day. There's more momentum in the roaster. Who knows what I roasted prior? Did it have a higher moisture content? Was it a darker roasted coffee? So I give myself a bit of a cushion when it comes to my coffee roasting approach, because I understand that I need to land within the window.
Mm-hmm.
Just not miss it, and anywhere within that window that I could land, I'm okay with, as long as I landed there. But if I landed bolts but my toe slid, that's fine.
Well, I was going to say, as you're saying that, I'm relating it in my head to skateboarding, and it's like, is this going to be like the hand drag? When you land like that steezy hand drag, like we're talking like Don Nguyen.
Yeah.
Like when he like does that like fucking like that, and he like touches and his hair's like flowing back. But then there's also ones where he'll land and you do like that quick power slide, but he never got his foot off and he pops up and it's like, does that count?
Yeah.
But it's like, no, fuck it. It counts,
Yeah. It was still sick.
You rode away. You landed in the window,
landed,
and
landed.
it's like, that also comes into style. I mean, this also kind of goes into one thing that, I don't know if you've heard this on the podcast. You were mentioning that you listen to the podcast, which thank you again.
Yes.
For me, when I've like, whether it's working at the cafe during the day or if like I'm entering a roasting competition and I get to roast after hours, when like just me and the roastery, and it's really just me and that roaster. And I'm a big proponent of energy and what you're putting in, because I don't necessarily believe in religion, but I believe in energy, and I believe in the universe, and I believe in these things that energy is something that is like kind of proven, if you want to say, in science. And so I really believe that like the energy that you're putting into the beans it's reflected, and whether it's the music you're listening to or these things. So it's like when you're putting that vibe into it, it's definitely like the same thing with skateboarding, and it's definitely that same thing with coffee. I mean, would you say you do the same thing for your coffee as well?
I think it's exactly what I do. I've made jokes to my roaster's apprentice, where when I'm roasting dark coffee, I go with a little harder music.
Yeah.
When I'm listening to it, I go, this one's a little bit more rock.
Okay.
We're going dark. When I'm roasting a coffee that I feel is very complex, I like to listen to jazz.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's like my favorite thing to listen to when I'm cruising on my skateboard. Is just like listening to jazz and just riding to the vibe of the jazz music that I'm listening to. I'm just going off of energy.
Okay.
And it's exactly what you said. It comes from a plant. There has to be energy in it.
Yeah.
And as people say, you talk to plants, and it creates a better
response.
plant. So I talk to when I come in the morning, I say hello to the roasters. I pet them. I have a little conversation with them, how they doing, how was their weekend. Sorry, I haven't seen them in a couple of days. I do all that. I might look crazy when I'm doing it, but it's what I do. I've been hanging out with that roaster for so many years. It's it's Monday through Friday. It's me and that roaster, and now both, so I gotta learn how to give them their own personal time.
Yeah.
But for me, it's what more can we do with coffee? Like outside of just trying to roast the best coffee, and that's energy, and that's just being so enthusiastic when you're roasting it that you hope that enthusiasm is somehow is in that bag when people pick it up. It's similar to somebody making you a meal and they're in a bad mood, as opposed to them being in a good mood.
Hell yeah.
That's what we're doing. We're cooking.
Dude, that's so right. I mean, like when people say that they're cooking and they're cooking with love and like you can taste it, it's like mom's home cooking, right? Like my mom makes the best beer can chicken, and it's like it might not even actually taste that good, but because I know my mom made it, and like I know how much love my mom, like I don't get to see my mom all the time. She lives in New Mexico, but whenever I come home, she's like, let me cook for you. And she just starts cooking, and it's like, yo, mom, what's for dinner? I'm like instantly like 5 years old again, like
That's awesome.
It's like, hey, mom, what's up? Like, hey, is food ready? Like, kind of thing. And
the stuff that you didn't want when you were a kid, you're like, I'm kind of craving.
Yeah, like, mom, let me get that. Like Thanksgiving, my mom makes this killer cranberry orange, like cranberry sauce, if you will. And it's so good. She uses a food processor, and I'm like, I could remake it and it'll never taste the same. But because mom made it, it's fire. But it's like that. I fully believe in that. I fully believe that if you're cooking with like hate in your heart, or just like you're not feeling the vibe, it's going to reflect in your cooking. That's also the thing that I transferred to coffee. It's like, perfect example. I was training for the U.S. coffee roaster. Stupid. I was roasting for the U.S. coffee championships. And in my opinion, I had ended up missing the registration date for the actual competition that had just passed in Orange County. But I was like, I'll do the prelims. If I fail, I learn. If I do good, I get a free spot in the U.S. coffee championships, right? And I went at like 8 o'clock at night, or maybe even 9 o'clock. And I was like roasting for a couple hours, doing like super small batches, like 4-pound batches. And I'm thinking like, yo, this is tasting fire. But I made a playlist for my roast night. And it was like Nipsey, DaBaby, like some other shit. But then the coffee, like, it didn't taste as good a couple days later. And I was like, what? Like, maybe it was like, this is my thought process. It sounds weird, but it was like, maybe the music was too aggressive. Like, maybe it wasn't like, I mean, obviously maybe my settings were off, or like other things, but put past the settings, I looked at my curves, and my curves, I mean, you never want it, like Joe Morocco says, you never like, really, the curve doesn't matter. Does it taste good in the cup? Yeah. The curve looked buttery, but the coffee, even afterwards, I tried it, and I was like, oh, that's not what I tried. So I was like, you know what? Maybe it was the vibe. Maybe I was just like, maybe I was too tired. Maybe it was the music it was too aggressive, or like something, but it was like, I wasn't there. I wasn't like fully there. So it reflected in the taste of the coffee. And I mean, of course I learned, and I will go back and I'll get better, but it was a lot to take. And I mean, like, it was funny. Is it's like the talking to the beans and all this stuff is like, sometimes I'll just be sitting there like, and I'm talking to myself. And I'm like, what are you doing? You look like a fucking crazy person. Like, cause I'm just like looking at the beans, like obsessing about them, like super gnarly. And I'm just like,
I'm sure a lot of us do it.
Like, dude,
I'm sure it's like more common, like, with coffee roasters at a certain point, it's just like, you're just trying to get in sync with this product.
Yeah.
You're just trying. And for me, it's when, visiting a farm, that really like was a good, like, eye opener for me, where it's like, you can say like, oh yeah, I know, like they farm it and they take a cherry and they depulp it and all that, they dry it. And when you see the whole process, like with your own eyes, and you're shaking hands of the people that are picking the cherries, and, making eye contact with them. And, it's like, you see how they're living, and just, you're like, wow, the amount of work for this bag to just arrive at my facility, at the very least, what I can do is to just try to make the best product out of this as possible, regardless of, like whether I'm into decaf or not. Like the person that's drinking that decaf coffee deserves a great tasting cup of coffee. So it's on me to create that, and I'll take the challenge. It's awesome. But with that new understanding of the work that I deserve to give this all the attention in the world in order to get it to where I needed to get to, because of everything that it took just to get here.
Yep.
It's like I have, I take pride in every single roast that I do, as I feel I should, because I know I put my best foot forward, whether I was happy with the result or not. Now, I know I tried, and if I didn't, we'll cup it. We'll try something different next time.
Yeah.
There's always next try. Like I tell the kids at the skate park, hey, don't stress out. There's always next try. Whenever I'm stressed out with a coffee that I'm having trouble like finding the sweet spot, I basically tell myself the same thing I do when I'm stressing out on the skate trick that I can't land, which is remind yourself of, with skateboarding, it's reminding myself of the little kid that started skateboarding that was just stoked to have a board. So he would have been stoked with any trick that I landed, whether it was sloppy or not.
Yep.
So with coffee roasting, it's remind yourself of the coffee roaster that you were when you first realized that you can do this. And that guy would be amazed at the knowledge that you've acquired to this point. So all you got to do is try to make that guy proud. That young, ambitious guy that was like, oh, I just learned how to do this coffee roasting thing, quote unquote, right. What else can I do? What else can I create flavor wise with this one particular bean? So I'm always just trying to keep impressing that guy. The younger version of myself that was like, whoa, I'm intimidated.
Yeah.
There's a lot of noise. It's metal. It's fire. You're like,
it's hot.
It's hot.
Yeah.
It's like you feel the pressure. That's how I was with the big one. The big one, it's like, that alertness of like, that's a lot of coffee going in at one time.
Yeah.
You burn this batch. That's a whole bag of hard work.
Dude, I get anxiety just thinking about that right there. Just like I had to take a deep breath. Like, that's an entire bag, bro. An entire burlap sack. Like
me, all my burnt roasts that I've had throughout the time I've been roasting haunt me. Really? Because it was I shouldn't have burned it. It's always that thing. Yeah. You're like, I messed up. I got distracted. The heat got away from me. Whatever it was. To me, it's reminding myself of how disappointed I was that I did that, to try to avoid doing it again. Yeah. And thankfully it hasn't happened in a long time.
I have to say, burning roasts is something that is inevitable. It happens. I mean, still to this day. Right now, like particularly, I'm working with a Honduras coffee. It's La Campa, and I like to. What I've started to realize is collaboration. Like we talked about before the podcast, we were talking about like there's a lot of certain mystique that some roasters still kind of partake in, but there's a lot of people in San Diego that like to share the knowledge. And because there's less mystique now behind how people do coffee and roasters in particular, I like to pull from everything, whether it was Derek De La Place from Mill City, Joe Morocco, or Onyx recently for me. I don't know anybody from Onyx, but I saw that they had dominated. They like barista and the roasting.
Oh, yeah,
and like,
I saw that.
Dude, yeah. Right. Like they're dominating. And it's like, holy shit. Okay. I've never really paid attention to other stuff like that. And then so I went on their website and they have how they roast. They're like, we cup this, we do this, we try different roast at this and this and this. Because I saw that, I took this Honduras and I did very, very small batches. I did 6-pound batches, which luckily we have farmers markets that we run about like 3-4 times a week. So it's like, even if it's bad, it's not going to be that bad. Yeah. And we can throw it in our farmers market blend and boom, there you go. So it's not going to waste ever. But per what I've heard or what I read from Onyx's website, I tried 4 different batches, all same weight, but at different charge temps, different airflow settings, different flame settings. Not too much, but now we're going to be cupping on Monday. And it's going to be, like, for me, I know that they say the best time to taste it is like 2 days after, but my whole thing is like if we're degassing, especially as like espresso, right now I have an espresso that I'm degassing for 20 days because I want to see how well it's going to work on working in the cafe. But then also I'm degassing the coffee that I've roasted. So there's a 2 to 3 day window between each sample. Or I guess they'd be sample batches to try cup it for, and it's going to be interesting to try it because I like to cup. I can do 2 days and then I do 4 and then I'll do upwards to like even 7 to 10 days afterwards because I want to see either the progression or the degradation of the coffee.
Yeah, or the decline.
Degrading. That's what degrading of the coffee, and see like day 12 it actually doesn't taste that good anymore.
Yeah, just try to find the sweet spot.
Yeah, and find it because it's like 4 to 9 days is that sweet spot window, supposedly. Yeah, but who knows? And I've been researching stuff about the degassing from that. I need to learn his name. It's this scientist from Zurich, and he spoke at the SCA about degassing. Okay. He degasses coffee for espresso specifically at 8 days. That's when he starts it. And he goes, it can degas up to 20 days. So I was like, because the reason I got super, it's kind of been a theme with some of the coffee people that I've been talking about, is that I accidentally degassed our coffee for 6 days because I was taught, 3 to 4 days. So I would keep it with that. And then I had roasted the espresso, and I don't know where my brain was at, but I was like, when I checked the date, I was like, 6 days. I was like, oh shit. I was like, in my head, I got stressed, but then the baristas, they took it over and they were like, yo, espresso's fire right now. And I was like, oh yeah, totally planned that.
Yeah, right. We're actually in the process of doing something similar where
really?
I'm holding production batches of espresso. We're going to basically taste 4 weeks against 3, 2, and 1.
Degassing?
Yeah.
So do you open you once you seal it, it's sealed?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Same.
Yeah, but it's coffee. We can play. We can do that as the first test, and then pick, and then do it again with bags that are open, and we can do it again with putting them in mason jars. Like I've seen, I've seen people put roasted fresh coffee and immediately shoved it into a mason jar and put it in the box and let it sit for 3 months, and then cup that next to a fresh batch just to see what happened. Just out of curiosity, that's the fun part. You know
exactly.
what I mean? It's like we're surrounded by this product all the time. We might as well play with it.
Yeah,
because we can
and experiment. See if who knows? Maybe that's maybe at 3.5 weeks, it tastes super fire, and it's like, what the hell?
Exactly.
Like what happened there? How did that happen?
Exactly. So now, all of my blends are roasted separate. It's.
Oh, you do post blends?
I do post blends.
Okay.
And where up until a few years ago we weren't doing that, but it's just for me just furthering trying to just get into more detail with each coffee, where we have to take the moisture content into consideration for charge temp, and I like to play with my drum speed and slow it down.
You're able to do that?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm able to build up momentum or slow down momentum depending on what I'm roasting, and it gives me more options on the cupping table. So I can see how it affected the coffee and the roast. Taste them. Maybe a few months ago, our espresso blend, we started incorporating where we didn't necessarily change the amount of Ethiopia that went into it. But what I did do was I took half of that percentage, and now that's roasted as a lighter medium roast, and the other percentage is roasted as an espresso roast. Still going into the espresso, but that's just kind of just our way of just trying to play with the recipe that we have.
Okay.
It's a group effort when we're making blends. It doesn't land on one person. I want to know everybody's opinion because there's value in everybody's opinion, regardless of their knowledge in coffee. As long as you have some type of understanding of what you like, like my assistant and our Q grader, there's value in both of those opinions. I can get a very simple answer from my assistant where he's like, yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
You know, I liked it better than last week's. Very basic.
Yeah.
Q grader could say, well, it's got sweetness and it's complex, and that's good too.
It's berry and kumquat and these things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, because coffee drinkers are going to have different levels of how they approach it, you know, whether they like it or not, you know, the understanding of it is going to be different. So to me, I like to know across the board. You know, I got a buddy who loves French press. I'm not a fan of French press, but he loves French press. That's his preferred method. So I can give him my coffees and get his opinion on coffees, and I know it's coming from a French press perspective. So if I have a customer asking me, well, I have a French press at home, and you know, what coffees would you recommend? I have more of an understanding. You know, this coffee is good. This coffee is good. You know, where I don't know, I use a Chemex at home. You know, and that's just because I like the process.
Yeah.
You know,
and plus you can make it for your. Yeah.
Here we do a batch brew because there's so many of us coming in and out. Like if we did a Chemex, we'd spend too much time in the tasting room.
Yeah, take forever. Yeah.
It's like, Carlos, you're doing another Chemex. It's only cup 4.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's like, so you know but not everybody's gonna brew their coffee. You know, this cafe uses Chemex. This cafe is doing pour over, but they're both using the same coffee. I need to know in-house how they both taste. You know, so I have better information I can provide for them. If they, hey, what grind setting should I do, or what should my batch weight be? You know, we just, you know, what more can we do outside of roasting the coffee?
Of course,
tasting it, cupping it, experimenting with it, playing with it, blending it.
Yep.
There's so many things, you know, and that's it. Within that is enough to play, enough to keep you motivated.
Oh yeah, always.
You know?
Well, I mean, it's the people you work with as well. I mean, to that point as well, like with whether it's Chemex or pour over or AeroPress or anything, there, our store manager and she's a friend of mine is this girl Leof. I literally watched her, like she came into our cafe with 0 coffee experience, just liked coffee, and literally now she manages our shop. And she's like, we went to Catalina for like this I can't think what it's called. It's like Camp Xanadu. There we go. Like a weekend trip, and we provided all the coffee for the entire weekend. I don't know at what point how it got put on her, but basically she figured out how to use a Chemex and like adjusted the recipe and basically like told me how we were gonna do it. And I was like, all right. And I'm the like head roaster, director, coffee quality control, everything for our shops, I should say. And she killed it. I was like, okay, Leof, how do I do this? Like, oh, give me the recipe. Like, what was it? 750? Okay, this. And she's showing me. And now to the point where it was so funny. One day she says to me, all your coffees taste the same. And I was like, excuse me? I was so offended.
What?
Yeah, I was like, come again? And like, it literally became like a defining moment. And I feel like in our friendship where it was like, I was so offended by what she said to me. I was like, what do you mean all of my coffees taste the same? And she was like, I didn't mean it that way. And she was like, she meant after she had ended up explaining it to me that it was, we're not doing enough to expand on the coffee. And like, why are we not elevating? Why are we not continuing to push the envelope? All of our coffees tasting the same, meaning we had all the same profiles. She's like, chocolate, caramel, these things. And I was like, well, that's what we're working with right now. And she's like, and we're about to go to a cupping that day at our importer. And so I was like, oh, okay. So all of our coffees, all right, well then let's do complex coffees. You want to do complex coffee? Let's do it. Let's do something that we normally wouldn't do. So we go to the cupping table at our importer, and we end up, there's like a PNG, there's a Honduras, there's a couple other coffees. We get to the PNG, and because she had said this to me, I get to the PNG, I cup it, and my palate's a little bit more developed than hers, but I start tasting these things, and it was like just very, very complex. It was savory, but it was sweet. And then it had like other flavor notes that I wasn't very familiar with. And they were like, well, what coffee, after everybody had cupped, what coffee do you like the best? And I was like, actually, to be 100% with you, I don't like that P&G if I'm going based on like what I normally like in coffee. But because I'm putting my personal preference aside and I appreciate what's in that coffee, I was like, my favorite coffee on the table is that P&G. And I was like, I think we need to have that in the shop so we can elevate our coffee profiles. And it was because of her that I did that. And then it was like, from that moment on, she started to kind of like become this person that was like elevating and pushing me. And she had that same effect on our lead barista and all these other people, to the point where now she will be like, she's done 2 or 3 different pour over methods. And then she also, at the same time, she has started to mess with brew temperatures. She's like, okay, so we have this super light roast. My Ethiopian, I do at about a minute development post crack. So as soon as I heard that 1, 2, 3, according to Derek, I only let it develop between 59 seconds and a minute and 02. And it's super sweet. Some people taste it and it's like, oh, it's sour. But it's like, for people who know what it should be tasting like, it's like very sweet. It's complex. It's berry. It tastes like rose. It has these other things. And I'll be like, Leah, what did you do with that pour over? And she was like, oh, I brewed it at like 212. And I was like, oh, that pour over didn't taste too good. And she's like, well, let me do it at 210. And then she did one at 206. She's like, oh, this one's good. But then we do our dark roast at like 195. And it's like, we didn't even have that in place. It was because of her that we had it. And it was like, to your point, it's like why I'm saying all this is because she saw that we needed to play more with the coffee, to put it simply. And she's doing that. And because she's elevating her own game, it's making everybody like a rising tide raises all ships. Yeah. And everybody's like, yo, we got to elevate the game. Like, let's keep going. Let's keep going. That's and we're all feeding off each other. And it's like, yo, this is hella sick.
That's how it should be. You know, the group that you have around you is very crucial. You know, you gotta have people around you that inspire you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In however that may be. You know, at first you were like, what do you mean? Oh, my coffee stays the same.
Yeah.
But that was like, you needed that. You know, I had that moment maybe about a year and a half ago. We had a guy working here who basically came in here and he's a coffee guy. You know, so he wasn't being nice about everything. And it challenged me. And I was mad at first. I was so against it. I'm like, you just got here. Like, how dare you tell me how to roast my coffee? But when he left here, I made sure that I made it a point to shake his hand and thank him. I told him, you challenge, and it was a different vibe. It was the same comment, but it was different energy where it was like, you challenged me, and I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Because I needed it. Because we do the same job, you know, on a daily basis. It's like every once in a while we need that inspiration, wherever it's coming from. We need somebody or something to pump us back up, give us that shot in the shoulder that we need, or to get us excited about, you know, what we're doing. You know, a new coffee comes in and I'm excited to see what it tastes like and what I can do with it. Mm-hmm. But to have somebody come in and say, yeah, it was good, but what else can you do with it? You know, and it's like, oh, all right. Okay, that's a different challenge, because it's like, oh no, I roasted it. Now I'm happy with where it landed, the time frame it roasted in, my first crack. I can be happy with everything across the board. And then somebody could say, well, what else can it do? And then you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, let's play. You know, we did that with our organic blend. I wasn't happy with it, but I wasn't saying anything about it because nobody was complaining. But then it was like, wait, I'm the roaster. I need to be happy with the blend. Mm-hmm. Like, I need to. So we scrapped it. And I was like, I don't care what the blend is, because I'm not happy with it. So it does not exist no more. What do we have available? What flavor profiles are they? Let's start playing. And we came in here and we sat here for maybe like about a week and a half, 2 weeks maybe, where we're like, okay, this is the new blend that we're happy with, we're proud of. We can explain what it's supposed to taste like and know why we went that direction. And for me, that was like one of those like game changers where it was like, okay, let's build blends. Let's play with coffees outside of, well, the customer's happy. So why would we change it? Well, because we're the ones making the blends. Yeah. Right? Like, our customers only know what the coffee tastes like that we present to them. So it's up to us to present the best possible product.
Yeah.
So when it was like, well, you know, I've heard that before where people say, well, nobody's complained. Like, why would I change my coffee? Nobody's complained.
So what does that
It's
mean?
like, well, has anybody complimented?
Yeah.
You know, people don't like to complain too much. You know, there's people that will complain and all that. But, you know, for the most part, you know, if you have, you know, a meal or something that didn't kind of like hit the spot, you're not going to say, hey, can I talk to the chef? Hey, man, like, I ordered this meal. I thought it was going to hit the spot. It didn't hit the spot. You know,
like, it was okay.
It was okay. You know,
Yeah.
you go, you maybe tell the person you're with, it was all right. You know, that was going to be better.
Yeah.
You know, so for me, it's let's make a product and let's be happy with all the products so that when those compliments come in, we know that what we were doing was a positive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all this work that we put in to improve something actually worked because somebody that's been drinking it for the last few months stopped what they were doing to reach out and say, hey, coffee's tasting great.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's like
right
somebody
there.
noticed. You know, it's like, and that's what you want because if the customer's happy, their customers are happy, you know, and I'm happy because that means my work, you know, is
being appreciated.
Is being appreciated.
Yeah.
You know, which is always, you know, a plus to know that you put a smile on somebody's face, you know, with something as basic as a drink.
No, but that's so important. Like, that's so key what you're saying there. I mean, you're in the warehouse and you're in this facility, but what I do when I'm roasting, I'm in the shop. We have our roastery is built into our shop. Our Orange County location doesn't have that. But we're not even like, dude, if you ever come down to San Diego, when you come to San Diego, I should say, you'll see how close the roaster is to the espresso machine and how, like, I'm literally, like, this close, probably even closer to the customers on a daily basis. And I'll be the first to tell you, I lose sight of the coffee in the sense of the customer. I think of it more as the sense of, I'm so close to this that I don't even understand what it would taste like to somebody who's never had our coffee before. But people who come in, they will, and this is not to be boastful, I'm just repeating what they say. It's like, they'll be like, this is the best coffee I've ever had. Or like, I had Joe come in and Joe gave me his feedback on my coffee and my espresso. And I was like, yo, like, I had a moment where I went in the back after he left and I was just like, I was waiting until he left and I like looked at Leov and Josh, our lead barista and our manager, and I was just like, oh shit, like I'm gonna need a minute. And I walked outside and I did like one of those things like, do you remember Major League when Wesley Snipes makes the team and he goes outside and he's like,
does a little dance?
Yeah, he goes and it's like, dude, that's exactly what I did in the back to the point where I was like, holy shit, Joe Morocco just gave me like some positive feedback on this espresso type of thing, you know? But it's to the point where the other day, me and Josh are standing there, our lead barista, and I'm roasting, and this couple came in and they were from Michigan. And they said, we came here 6 months ago on our last trip out here and the coffee was good, but your coffee's amazing now. And then she was like, and it was funny is that she's like, both of you were here on that day. And she's like, she called Josh, what did she call him? Delightful. She was like, you're delightful. And I was like, how did you guys?
Descriptor.
Yeah. And I was like, I looked at Josh. I was like, you're delightful, Josh. And he's like, yeah, that's right. That's what's up. You know, that kind of thing. And he was all pumped. And then like, I was like, hey guys, how'd you like the coffee? And they were like, it was amazing. Exactly what I just said. And then I was like, oh, and you called him delightful. That's amazing. She's like, I got a descriptor for you too. That's exactly how she said it. And I was like, oh yeah, what's that? She's like, and you're charming. I was like, oh,
awesome.
Thank you. You know, and it was just like to have that feedback, to have that connection to these people that they've literally live in another state across the country, came here 6 months ago, and they even it was a couple, it was a man and a woman, and the older man was like, your espresso was good then, but now it's like something else. And I was like, he's like, did you change the blend? I was like, I did. I changed the blend, and like talking to Derek and talking to Joe, and like I actually do pre-blends now. I used to do post-blend for my espresso, but now I do a pre-blend.
It's whatever works, man. And whatever works.
Yeah,
right?
It worked with that recipe, and I was like, yeah, I changed it, and it was appreciated, and it was just like, dude, by no means am I a millionaire, but that feeling that I get from those customers, to your point earlier in the conversation, was that like it does something for me, and on a deeper level than monetary value. It really does.
Oh, definitely. I mean, think about it. Everybody has a job, right? I mean, for the most part, we're grown-ups, you work.
Yeah.
How many of us have our customers go out of their way to tell us that what we're doing is great, or compliment us on, how many fields of work do you have outsiders complimenting the people doing the work? Like nobody reaches out to somebody answering phones and say, hey, you're one of the best phone operators I've ever it's like it's this weird pocket that we work in.
Yeah.
Because we're so we're part of somebody's daily routine.
Yeah.
When they choose your coffee, whether they go to your shop or they buy a bag and they're brewing that in the morning. I'm very aware of anybody that I send coffee to, that I'm like every morning, whether they like it or not, they're like, Carlos.
Yeah.
Because they got the bag for me, So I make it a point to reach out to a lot of my friends in the mornings and like while I'm here and just say what's up to them as I'm like having my cup of coffee, It's just
That's what's up.
Because I'm like, hey, like when I'm having my cup of coffee and I'm having my routine, I like to go out of my way, reach out to my buddies, drop them a message, tell
Just
them
like
I love
have a good
them,
day.
have a great day, have a great Tuesday, man. Bruno,
What?
you're my favorite photographer. Like.
Do you really?
Yeah. Because it's like because to me it's one of those things where it's a very minor thing to do that in the future my friends can look back and be like, Carlos always reached out and showed love. And
That's
to me
what's
that's important. I need people to know that I have love for, that I love them. You know what I mean? It's because I know how important something very basic like that. It can go a long way. Something as simple as, hey man, that Ethiopia you roasted, fire.
Yeah.
And I'm rolling around the rest of the day like, dude, they like my Ethiopia.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
cool, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do a kickflip frontside nose slide now. Like, yeah, let's get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So you just
yeah.
get pumped up because it's like I'm at work and somebody reached out to tell me good job at my work.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's like I appreciate that. I really dig the people that I've ran into through coffee, through skateboarding, or both.
Yeah.
They kind of start mashing together at this point, but it's all the same vibe. It's all people just stoked at what you do, and that's that. It's like I said, we all work, so to have people be like, that's sick, as opposed to, oh, that's what you do. Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Like, you roast coffee. How many times have you heard, you roast coffee? I love coffee.
Yeah.
It's like, and then all of a sudden you're talking coffee with somebody that loves coffee. And you're just like, oh, wow, I just had a 10-minute conversation with this guy about my job. Cool.
Yeah.
And they were.
And they think it's like the coolest shit.
Yeah.
Like,
They're just like, wow. Like, that really? Like, that's so crazy. I'm quick to tell people, yeah, you want to come and check out the warehouse, come check it out. We're
100%.
I'm there Monday through Friday. I live right down the street. It's not a big deal for me to come down here. I see this place so much that it's just like fully ingrained in my life at this point. Like whether I'm working or not, this is my local coffee shop. If I'm like out and it's like, oh, we're going to go hit the freeway, and it's like, well, just stop at the warehouse and pull a shot, make a latte.
Yeah.
Brew some coffee.
Dude, that's what I do.
Keep pushing.
I do that same shit. It's so funny. I'll walk into the cafe on Saturdays and Sundays. Like, why are you here on your day off? I'm like, well, first of all, I like free. Okay, and that's number one. I don't give a fuck where I'm at. Free is free. I will take free coffee. But first and foremost, like second of all, it's like, it's really, I hope this doesn't sound weird to say, but I don't dislike my job. I don't dislike not seeing the people who make our team work. I love seeing our head lead barista, Josh. I have a thing with him. It's like, it's different. When me and him open the shop in the morning, he'll come in like half-eyed, like rubbing his eyes and shit, kind of tired. But then it's like, I'm getting my roast day planned, and it's like, it's the guys. It's kind of like a barbershop in a sense. It's like, we're not up, and we're just like rifling off witty shit, and we're just dying laughing. Just hilarity, right?
Good times.
Good times. And then if like the homegirl Mel comes in, she's like this, we call her Mama Bear. She's got 2 kids, and she's closer in age to me because everybody's a little bit younger, like 20s. But then she's like 30 or 31, and I'm like about to be 34. And like me and her will like vibe on just like, hey, you know, we've been through some shit. You know, what's popping? You know, like life. You know, yes, it's life exactly. And then she's half Mexican too, like me. So like she'll put on Selena or like some like cumbias. So it's like like put that shit on, yeah, you know, like thing. And then there's Leov, and then Leov is like, she's our manager. She's a homie. Kind of been like a mentor to her as well with her coffee game. But then me and her train jujitsu. Like my jujitsu path started with her. And it's like, it was hella funny. Just even yesterday, I was talking to her, and she's like, my elbow hurts. And I was like, fuck. And she's like, it's been hurting for a minute. And I was like, yo, did somebody armbar you again? She's like, yeah, I wonder who. And because I hyperextended her arm one time on accident, because she didn't, I basically secured both of her arms to the point, like I had one, and I guess my leg like got the other arm. And instead of saying tap or something like that, she was like, ow, and I let go immediately, and I was like, oh shit, and I like checked on her. I was like, are you okay? And she's like, you fucking hyperextended my arm. I was like, why didn't you tap? She's like, you covered both of my arms. And I was like, oh, say tap next time, you know. But whatever, it was just, but that, it's like you have these relationships and you build these things with these team that you have, and it's ingrained in me so much that like if I don't go there, it's like, oh man, I definitely try to stay away at like one day, but at the same time I do like seeing them because it's part of my routine, it's part of my day, and it's like I do enjoy not working and seeing all of them and just being like, hey, yeah, what's popping? How you doing today? Like good, all right. Because some of them I don't even see if they're not working on the weekends. Because we have a couple new employees that only work on the weekend. So like I'll walk in and I'll be like, hey, what's up? How you doing, Marianne? How you doing, Jairus? Like
the only chance you get to actually see them.
Yeah. And it's like you get to have that level with them because it is so much of what I do in my job. To me, it's not just roasting the coffee. It's definitely the personal relationships that I have with these people and that I allow myself to have with them, because you're ingrained with their lives, whether or not you like to admit it. It's like, dude, when you spend 8 hours a day with somebody for fucking weeks on end, years on end, yeah, they might have lives. They obviously have lives outside of work, but they become so much a part of your life, and you become part of their life. So it's like,
and that's why it's crucial to have the right people around you.
Yeah,
because of that. You know, we're a small group. It's 7 of us total. You know that, and in the roasting room, it's 2 of us. Yeah, that do. You know, we roast it, bag it, box it. You know, so. And I tell Arturo that all the time, where I'm like, dude, I spend more time with you than I spend with anybody in my life. Yeah. Because we're in here minimum 40 hours a week with each other, you know. So it's very important that I like the guy.
Yeah.
You know?
That you vibe.
And we vibe. You know, we go skating after work. That's, you know, we're getting our flat ground on in here, you know, when we can, you know, and it helps that he's a hard worker. Yeah. You know, he busts his butt off, and, you know, and I appreciate it, and I let him know. You know, I don't take him for granted, because I know that's, you know, that you never know. You never know when you bring somebody new in, you know. So it's real cool to have the group that we have here, and we do things like happy hour, because it is very important for us to hang out outside of work without the pressures of work and still enjoy each other's company. Yeah. We do Fun Fridays twice a year, where 2 Fridays out of the year, we'll just take off for 4 hours on the clock. And the only rule is you got to go have fun. So me and Arturo make this joke that we're sponsored twice a year. We're pro skaters for 4 hours twice a year, because we're getting paid to go skate. Yes. And that's what we go do. It's like, I'm not going to go home and clean up the living room and all that. That's not fun. I'm going to go skate. That's what I find fun. So for 4 hours, I go skate and have a good time. Yep. You know.
Oh, yeah. Well, we can wrap it up. You can totally say it too. It's not a problem. We're about to be at 1:30, so it's totally fine. Cool. But yeah, man. I mean, just one thing I did want to ask you before we left: how did you meet Chris? Because he's the one who introduced us.
Chris I met through a buddy of ours named Cody. Cody was part of the Jaquan crew.
Okay.
And they were there like every weekend, and I was just looking for guys that wanted to skate. You know, you skate for so long, eventually people start not skating as much, you know?
Yeah.
So Chris was just part of that group, and my buddy Cody moved to New York. And when he did, Chris became my go-to every weekend. He was down to go skate. I knew if I hit up Chris, he was like, I'm down. Yeah. Let's get it.
Chris is always the
so
homie.
Chris is always the man, and he's been the man.
You knew Neil too, right?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Both those guys.
Neil's the man, yeah.
All right. Well, shout out to Neil. Shout out to Chris.
Yep.
Chris, thank you so much for introducing us. And like, just tell the people, Carlos, tell the people where they can find you. Tell the people where they can either come and get your coffee, Instagram, Twitter, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you can find us at City Bean, on Instagram, citybean.com on the internet.
City Bean Roasters or just
City Bean?
Citybean.com.
Okay. Yeah, and me, I'm Silos Fig on Instagram, 2 G's, or Friendly Neighborhood Roaster.
Yep, the Friendly Neighborhood Roaster. Fuck yeah.
Yep.
Dude, Carlos, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, brother.
Good times.
Yeah, G.
Peace.
Peace. Yes, thank you so much, Carlos. Dude is a legend. Thank you so much for showing me around City Beans Roastery. Thank you for showing me your beautiful roasters and just taking time out of your day. I really appreciate it. And I want to say thank you to the sponsors of Caffeine and Green, Thorn Street Brewery and Seven Seas Roasting Company. And last but not least, I want to say thank you to all you beautiful people out there who continue to support me and Caffeine and Green and keeping this thing going. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button on my YouTube channel, Caffeine and Green Podcast. And yes, thank you again all so much. Caffeine and Green is what it is. Spread that word, y'all. And I will see y'all next week. Peace.